It's very sad to me as somebody who's known Ben forever and helped make Ben 100%. He became a star on my show, The Kelly File. I'm very sorry to see this happen. And like, there is absolutely no cause to go run around policing the guests on somebody else's show and trying to diminish somebody who is as interesting, but, and I mean this complimentary, benign as Piers Morgan. Piers is not a pernicious force. Piers is an interesting guy who's got an interesting show. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. It's up to you. I think he's really interesting, and I think his interviews are great. But that now we have to get rid of Piers Morgan. So obviously, in Ben's view, Tucker had to go. Clearly, even though he helped build Candace, she had to go. Then I had to go, even though I've had a 15-year friendship with a guy, publicly attacked me. Same thing, not even a text in advance, even though we had had a text like literally 4 months or 4 weeks earlier saying, no matter who we're friends with, because he was mad I was friends with Tucker, our friendship means more to us than anything. And we won't do anything to F it up. Next thing I know, I get attacked by him on stage at Turning Point. Now Piers Morgan, like, how many people have to go? Truly, how many people must be culled from the conservative movement in order to make Ben happy? This is ridiculous. And it's not just Ben. All right. There are others who take his lead once he calls you an anti-Semite or says you need to be kicked out of, polite society. There are a couple of others. Knowledge of yourself, and with the greater knowledge of nature, you must know what is good and what is not. You must know what is finite. You must know that which is material, physical, and otherwise.
What up, party people, man? You cannot make this up, bro. You cannot make this up, man. So that was Megan Kelly. She's hot as fish grease about what's happening within the Republican Party. We'll come back to that slide in a second. She hot. She hot about everything associated with Trump, TPUSA, Tucker. So let the games begin. What games do you say? See, the whole thing is that the Republican Party has never been one unified group of people. Ever since post Clinton, you get George W. Bush, you get the Tea Party, but the reality is that everything from these missing senators, the lying people who go online for them, like Scott Jennings. Where's Scott Jennings? Anybody? Can anybody? Because Scott Jennings was the main one. He been talking to Mitch McConnell, but ever since they produced the ghost of Mitch McConnell, you can't even find Scott Jennings anymore. So, and it comes a point where the Republicans, they still want to win. They still thinking that there's going to be life after Trump, which I don't think anybody's woken them up to the fact that you can't do this type of stuff right here out in the open. See, it used to be a time when there was no internet. So now y'all know why they hate the internet, because a lot of things that was happening at local levels in small towns and small government, all that wasn't getting out to the people. Now it is, and everybody's been able to connect their own dots. But the truth is that this has been going on forever. But as long as it was targeted to a group of people that no one considered valuable, important, that people could consistently marginalize and make it out to be, oh, look at these folks, they're always whining and crying. What you're looking at 70, 80, in some cases almost 90-year-olds who they remember a different time. They remember a whole different world. And a lot of them were just coming of age. They were just starting to get, preteens, teenagers, in some cases, young adults. And they remember when there wasn't this whole big diversity issue. All these issues that they're dealing with now didn't exist. And they're trying to dial back the clock. The irony of the timing is unbelievable. So you got a sitting senator who's going to get replaced by his sister who just died. Mitch dead. Lindsay dead. Gone. Poof. Out of here. So what do? They hold a special election. They do anything that would make it even remotely appear like it's above board? No. They just appoint his sister to take his seat. See, it's always been a good old boys network. And the good old boy network has always been very powerful against people of color. Period. And as long as the good old boy network was working against people of color, no one cared. Let's keep it a buck. No one cared. So if you go back to the 60s, you'll see that, there was a time when the everybody was trying to get in on civil rights. That's kind of what happened. Everybody got in on civil rights and we got cut out. All the bills and laws that was passed for us started getting sucked up by other people. Since they couldn't stop us, they just opened up the floodgates and they started importing new Negroes. So when you hear the fight between the FBAs, and for those who don't know what FBA is, you need to research it. Foundational Black Americans, and you hear the fight. How they talking about tethers, or how people from Africa and people from other countries, they were incentivized not to associate with African Americans. And it went back to as far as back as the Middle East, when they first struck oil. Some of these countries, they started importing some of their people for educational purposes, and none of this stuff is new. It's just we didn't understand the impacts of it, and now we're starting to see the impacts of it. And so, why am I telling you guys all this? Because the good old boy network, it didn't break up, it didn't disappear, right? We don't want to talk about we try to live in the now, but if you don't understand that these people are trying to still repeal the past. They just got rid of the Voting Rights Act. They got rid of Roe versus Wade. If you don't think they still stuck in the late 50s and trying to go back to a bigger, better, quieter time in their mind, so that's what they still mad about. Go watch the movie about Shirley Chisholm, when she aligned with the school integration movement, which led to white flight, which obviously led to us running behind them and still creating the situation that we got now, which is decimating our own communities because we were trying to fight for integration. All right, y'all, check this out.
Very sad.
The year was 1957. The campus of Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, became a battleground in the fight for school desegregation. It was in September that 9 black students, 6 girls and 3 boys, became forever known as the Little Rock Nine. On September 2nd of that year, days before Central High was to be integrated, Governor Orville Faubus of Arkansas ordered National Guardsmen to surround the school. Their orders to only let the white students in.
Were you there?
I was there.
You were. We're gonna come back to Dale. We're gonna come back to Dale in a minute because he was there, and we sit down and talk to students who were there. You guys know I've spent the last, I don't know, about a year or more, almost 2 years in Little Rock, and it's just been an interesting thing to see that how much we don't really know about that time. So what you're looking at right now is some of you guys may have seen it. It's on my page on Facebook. For those who watch on Facebook, this is state news. It is a celebration of Daisy Bates, because next year will be the 70th anniversary. In 2027, we'll celebrate the 70th anniversary of the integration of Little Rock Central High School. The when the Brown versus Board of Education, we did something that there may have been something that happened in America, but that kind of has been muted because of Donald Trump. The celebration of diversity in America, the celebration of the Little Rock Nine, all these things that used to be taught in school, they don't teach that anymore. They've been moving away from everything associated with how this country came to be where it is now, right? The fight. So what you're looking at in our state news are actual headlines that was run by um, Daisy Bates. So this is the lower half of this paper The lower half, this part down here, is from the actual paper that Daisy Bates, the publisher, the editor of Arkansas State Press, as you can see right there in the middle, Arkansas State Press is right there. Um, Her and her husband, LC, were also the head of the local NAACP. So they were actively involved in the integration fight, right? So, as they've started to erode, erase, and undermine history, I really feel like it's because there's forever this guilt factor, this indictment factor, this unholy truth that they know that they've been trying to hide from their generations. And when you start talking about resetting the timeline, I can imagine what it was like to live at a time where they buried whole towns, where they flooded and just murdered and killed. And if you understand Arkansas was the last stop before the West. So if you go back to the 1800s, Arkansas was like, and Fort Smith was like the last stop before you got to Texas, which was the West and the outlaw. And, this is before railroads, before all the, pre-Civil War, everything. And so it was, settlers who were trying to flee whatever you were fleeing in the East, you went to the West. And so once you understand Arkansas's role in the founding of America, it gives you a whole different connotation as to what the blacks in Arkansas would have been leading on and engaged in during that time period, right? So when you see that this black newspaper that Daisy Bates had here, let me give you guys a better look at it. Boom. Okay. So now this is the clip version that you can read this and you can see it up close better on my Facebook page. I posted it there. I'm gonna post single pages of where you can watch it, read it. But this is what they were talking about then. Okay, this is 1957. White man held after Negro woman files rape charges. So obviously you see that we're starting to get, rights that are actually being enforced. But, if you notice right here in that second in the far left, first paragraph underneath the photo, or first headline underneath the photo, states racial bill worthless according to state legislators. So this is 1957. They're now starting to enact local and state laws based on a federal law, and the state legislatures are saying this is not accurate. That's what's going on right now. This is what's happening in Mississippi right now. How they redrawing the maps and saying, hey, these districts are not legit. These things are not accurate. But because we don't know the history of how these things, what was really going on at the time, because these newspapers have been buried and hidden. They've been hidden in plain sight, but if you don't know where to look for them, know where to find them, there's really no context, right, as to what was going on. Young Dixie senators warned on filibuster. The Dixie senators will be the Dixiecrats, right, who were trying to get rid of the filibuster then. warned about. I don't know if the filibuster was being put in. I have to look that up. But they were like, nah, we don't know. That's gonna make it too much, too level, too much power. That's gonna go the other way. But all these other headlines from guest speaker at Negro Church, yeah, it says Negro in the headlines. Negro Church causes white minister a heavy fine because he had a guest speaker come. Civil rights rallies slated for 6 cities. Then this was 1957. This is the same year that Central High is about to be integrated. Long fight forecast as measure reaches Senate. That's talking about Ike stands firm on rights bill. So this is the civil rights bill that was started under Dwight D. Eisenhower. That's who Ike is. Eisenhower's the same one who's going to call in the troops to stop the Dixiecrat Governor Faubus from blocking the 9 kids from going to Central in a couple of weeks. So we're still dealing with the same stuff that the Daisy Bates and all those folks are dealing with, but now we're dealing with in the aftermath. This is the precursor. So this is actual headlines from the state press, which is Daisy's paper. Daisy Bates, for those who don't know, is the woman who was the administrator, the civil rights activist who was with the Little Rock Nine and was the person who spoke at the March on Washington. She was the activist, her and her husband, LC. So this is their paper, the state press. We're bringing back those headlines, bringing back those stories, because in September we will start the countdown to the 70th anniversary, which is going to be September of 2027. The national park site, the Little Rock Central High National Historic Site, which is a national monument. They got all these great monuments and all these things there, but we're not talking about it. And I think right now we really need to, because this is what's they're mad about still. You think they not still mad? You crazy. This is all they mad about. This was the tip of the spear. Brown versus Board of Education, school integration. Tip of the spear. Because after you get school integration, what you get? White flight. What happens at the white flight? Then they're able to institute a legalized segregation, a public segregation, because, hey, now they've segregated themselves, which then makes it easier to institute everything from flood the neighborhoods with crack. Yeah. So by the 80s, all the white folks that left in the city, now they're going to introduce crack, and their thought was, oh, the crack just going to affect the Negroes. What? White folks use more drugs than white people do more than anything than anybody in this country, because there's just more of them. But there was this delusion among people that the nature of this and the nature of that. Come on, man, stop it. But you're still living under people who didn't understand, they were just coming to accept the world was round versus flat. I know there's some flat earthers out there. Salute to y'all flat earthers. But we're talking about science versus education versus uneducated. That America in the early 1900s was still mostly illiterates. Functional, but illiterates. You know how many people couldn't read? Certainly couldn't conjugate a verb or could give you the square root of a. They know the square root was. This ain't black or white. This is everybody. Between 1865 and 1965, education wasn't a priority. Jobs was a priority. Work, build, construct. So if you knew how to do some stuff without having to go to school, you just went on and did what you did. So global, political, stop it, man. So yesterday, for y'all who just tuning in, man, this your boy Darren Dickerson, Discovering This Trust. I'm gonna hit y'all with the logo real quick. Knowledge of yourself, and with the greater knowledge of nature, you must know what is good and what is not. You must know what is finite. You must know that which is material, physical, and otherwise. Yeah, so what y'all hear in the background, that's Marcus Garvey. He's talking about, you need to know the elements of the world and the earth and how things work and science and all these different things. And I'm just telling you that there was just a lot of uneducated, misinformed, and they were starting to get informed because it wasn't just the black people who was getting their neck stepped on; it was everybody. So let me blow this headline up for you guys so you can get a better picture of it. So now, this is 1956. So now this is exactly 70 years ago. Okay? 70 years ago, resolution for civil rights fight demands equal share of American citizenship for Negroes spelled out. Negroes want no part of compromise in transit dispute. Dixiecrats, wait a minute, Dixiecrats, y'all see this right here, that in the bottom half on the far left, depending on your right, how you see it on your screen, Dixiecrats kill federal aid bill to education, kill federal aid to education bill in the House. But y'all think this stuff these people doing is new? No, they just getting back on their horse. They just getting back on their square. Getting back on their game. This is the Arkansas State News in July of 1956. This is after the passage of the Brown versus Board of Education, where it said that separate and equal was unequal and unfair. So now they having to pass rights bills to they passed a resolution and bills to, okay, we gonna make education fair, and the Dixiecrats is fighting it all the way. Okay, let's play a fun game. Here we go. What is a Dixiecrat? Ooh, here we go. A Dixiecrat was a member of the conservative faction of the Southern Democrats who broke away from the National Democratic Party in 1948 to form the States' Rights Democratic Party. Okay, so what does that even mean? That they opposed Harry S. Truman, came after Eisenhower, civil rights platform advocating instead for the preservation of racial segregation and white supremacy. The 1948 revolt. The movement was sparked by President Truman. For y'all want to know, I'm reading this from my iPad. President Truman efforts to desegregate the U.S. Armed Forces and his push for federal anti-lynching laws. You could just Google it. You could just Google who was a Dixiecrat, what was a Dixiecrat, and it's telling you. They was mad about blacks coming into the military, and they was mad about anti-lynching laws. Do you realize we still don't have an anti-lynching law today? To this very day, we have no anti-lynching law. Let that marinate. So the Dixiecrats were trying to kill federal aid to education bill. Resolution for civil rights fight, that Truman and Eisenhower and all the presidents were understood the value, the importance, and they were committed to it. But there was just a faction of Americans, man, who, yeah, no. And I'm saying to you, they still mad. That what you're seeing is not a dismantling of, oh, we're dismantling the rights of Americans. No, man. It started with the fact that black Americans fought for something, got a measure of something, and they've been trying to take it back ever since. And anybody who doesn't see that isn't living in a reality of what this is. Oh, okay, wait. So let me tell you. Make sure you guys get this. So where did the Dixiecrats go? Oh, I'll put this on here. Make sure y'all can hear me better. So y'all can probably hear me better now. So where did the Dixiecrats go? That's a good question, Darren. Let's find out. Where did the Dixiecrats go? Okay. Where did they go? The Dixiecrats dissolved after 1948, but their members reshaped American politics in two distinct ways. Core leader South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond switched parties and joined the Republican Party in 1960. Other more populist members remained in the Democratic Party. So, Strom Thurmond, who they've hailed as one of the greatest senators ever from South Carolina, had a black family. Go look it up. And a bunch of Dixiecrats became the new Republican Party as you know it today. So the same people who were fighting for all of this stuff, who wanted to kill the federal aid bills, who've been opposed to anti-lynching laws, they've been opposed to an anti-lynching law since lynching was still a thing. So when the administrations of multiple presidents who have been hailed as some of the greatest presidents in history, Eisenhower, Truman, these were all presidents who were trying to get civil rights resolution on the books. These dudes is trying to go all the way back to the New Deal and unravel New Deal policies, because all those policies they're trying to unravel was designed to benefit black people. And I'm pretty sure that they blaming anything that happened with the court back then on Thurgood Marshall, because they got a black on the court. Why you think they spent so much time fighting for the black Voldemort on the Supreme Court? No, I'm not gonna say his name. Y'all know who Clarence is at home with real good parents. Yeah, he got white benefactors. We're gonna do a whole thing on white benefactors later. But what we need to look at right now is that as we approach the 70th anniversary, well, this year will be the 69th. We're celebrating the 69th anniversary of the integration of Central High. We're kicking off a year-long campaign to dive back in and try to catch up on what we missed. There's something that we missed about all of this. There's something that makes all of this possible, that makes the lying and the deception and the tomfoolery okay. Because they have submitted themselves as anti-black first. They've submitted themselves as people who are more committed to trying to reverse the clock on integration, or at least position African Americans as something not to be supported, to be anti, because they understand that the basis of everything that's going on in this country goes back to this time period right here. And if you understand that they killed Fred Hampton not because of what Fred Hampton was advocating for with the Black Panthers, but they killed Fred Hampton because of what he was advocating for with poor whites. And we may have an opportunity here, y'all. Just being honest. And what is that opportunity? The poor whites are hurting. Now you might say, hey, well, they racist and they rednecks and they MAGA and they deserve it, but that don't help our cause. We need them to see the same people stepping on your neck. So the people stepping on necks ain't us. We don't have the ability to control, carry sway, and carry favor in the way they be trying to make it out to be. Not possible, bro. That we ain't your enemy and we ain't the evil. And I think they starting to see this with Trump now. That, your man's is out there. You know what I mean? They starting to see that some of this stuff is crazy. That these guys is, man, they'll say anything, they'll do anything, they'll lie on any level, they'll point their friends. Man, Lindsey Graham's sister is taking his seat. Because it's been a good old boys network. It's been a good old boys network for so long, y'all just ain't been hip. And there's a bunch of people who thought, oh, well, they're going to die off. They just ain't dropping dead fast enough. And I'm not saying God is taking those souls to give us a fighting chance, but y'all better wake up and see what's going on. And if you don't think that everything stems back to this time, then you don't see what's going on. Think about the laws they unpacking and unraveling. Think about the fact that they've never passed a lynching law in America, period. Still to this day, there's no lynching law. Hey, listen, man, I'm not trying to do anything other than start a process of reigniting a conversation that's been long overdue. At the same time, we're going to celebrate, we're going to celebrate Daisy Bates. We're going to celebrate the work that she was doing. We're going to celebrate the Little Rock Nine. This is a celebration because we're going into, this year will be the 69th annual celebration. Phyllis Stickney's going to do a play. If you guys are not hip, there's going to be a live stage play that Phyllis is going to do where she's going to actually portray a one-woman play with Daisy Bates, which that should be pretty incredible. So, this episode of Discovery and Distrust is about discovery, man. It's time for us to discover what we've lost, right? We need to discover what was lost. And what was lost is the understanding that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That we don't necessarily have to agree on a mutual enemy. Meaning we don't have to agree with each other to have a mutual enemy. We can deal with how we relate to each other after we establish that the same person sticking us is the same person sticking you. That we're not taking anything from one another, that someone is taking something from both of us or all of us. And it's America. And if we're going to stand together, we need to understand how we got here. And so it is pretty revealing that many of the same issues that are headline news today was headline news 70 years ago. But that back then, the president stood tall. The president stood firm because the president actually understood what the value of America. We was coming off 2 world wars, and they realized how much African Americans were needed and valued, and how much we had contributed. And maybe they understood that had we had withheld that contribution, what that could have meant for the world. Maybe some of the wars we fought in, and maybe some of the things that we were trying to do to prove ourselves as Americans, we should have sat that out. But that'll be another conversation for another day, y'all. Hey, man, this your boy, Darren Dickerson. Thank y'all for tuning in, tapping in. We'll be back. We'll be back in a couple of days because we'll be doing this at least 2 to 3 times a week. We have new headlines from the papers that you guys really do need to see. We're going to dive into 1956. So I think the next week or two, there may be one more July, 1957, 56. Yeah, 1956. And then we're going to go week by week, month by month, all the way through the actual integration in 57, pulling from the headlines, talking about what that means, seeing how much it parallels today, seeing how far we have come or how far we have not. Hey, man, it's your boy, Darren Dickerson. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Knowledge of yourself, and with the greater knowledge of nature, you must know what is good and what is not. You must know what is finite. You must know that which is material, physical, and otherwise.